What's up guys, it's Johnny Candido of Candido Training. HQ. I recently got a really good question as far as programming and exercise selection, and that was, why should you ever train beltless on any movement or ever really have any variations if training specificity is the ultimate goal? So typically what I see is the people who act as if specificity is case closed the argument for exercise selection, and it always wins out when a debate is about belted versus beltless back squats or any variations. They don't typically realize the fact that specificity also applies to loading. So if you're saying that you're going to do, let's say, 70% of your squat max, let's say you're doing it competition style for sets of 8, or you're doing 80% for sets of 8, that's still not going to be that specific because it's not up at that 90%, 95%, and then obviously 100% is actually the most specific exercise you possibly can do as a powerlifter. So the point is, it becomes very important to realize that it's just not that simple. We have to have a certain degree of variation in order to keep getting stronger, in order to keep improving, because I think most people understand that you can't just max out every single day across all 3 lifts and expect to consistently get stronger. So let's get into some of the benefits variations can offer. Is they can sometimes help with form integrity by doing things like the pause lifts that can help you control the weight in the bottom position of, say, a back squat, bench press, or even a pause lift off the floor with a deadlift. That can reinforce proper form as well. Then also when it comes to actually just making sure your body's not too beat up from using super heavy weights, variations can help a lot. Like I can say for myself, using stiff leg deadlifts from time to time rather than pulling this just a standard conventional deadlift, that's helped me immensely because it allows me to get up in that higher perceived effort or perceived exertion, but I'm not completely taxing myself as I would if I did, let's say, 500 for a set of 8 on conventional deadlift. Instead, I can do, let's say, 315 or 405 for stiff legs. Also, there's something to be said for the mental aspect, that if you do a couple variations right there, those are a couple exercises that will directly translate into your competition low bar belted squat. Yet they give you an opportunity to hit new PRs. You can focus on just improving on those lifts for a short period of time so that then you feel more motivated. Because otherwise, when it starts taking longer and longer to hit PRs, it can be more frustrating if you don't have short-term goals that let you know that you are on track. Also, another important argument is something Chad Wesley Smith, who's a very well-known strength coach and an amazing squatter himself, amazing powerlifter all around, he's talked about the fact that specificity is on a spectrum based on experience. That means the more experienced you are, the more you need specific exercises because you just get less carryover out of accessories. So someone like, he always uses the example, someone like Malenchev, who has the knee wraps world record squat over 1,000 pounds, all he does is the big 3 mostly. And that's because that's the only thing that's going to actually get him to improve his total. You know, something like a slight variation just might not carry over for him because he is so close to his full potential. Whereas everybody else can use a little bit more variation and see a direct increase in their total. And this is something that you have to balance out. And you have to consider the fact that a lot of people who are on YouTube aren't necessarily super advanced, and they're taking advice from lifters who have been in this for years on end. So right now, I would say with my back squat, I do need a greater degree of specificity, and it's been noticeable for me than I did even just a year ago. So now what I'm doing, for example, is singles with a low bar position and a belt and knee sleeves and everything, and I'm doing that every single workout. Now, I'm not necessarily going up to 90% and more, but I'm just always doing it every single workout to keep that movement pattern, to keep the groove in so I don't feel as awkward when I do switch over to low bar. However, in the past, that really wasn't that big of a problem. It's just the heavier my squat gets, the more proficient I get, the more one error is going to be very detrimental to my performance. Also, I want to say the deadlift, in my opinion, requires the least amount of skill, which is why I've seen a lot of guys who use the West Side style of training. They have a very good deadlift, and their deadlift progresses very well because there is no eccentric to that. There's just the concentric on the way up. So you can just set your exact position and then pull. Whereas in the squat, there's more of a skill to it because it's about catching that stretch reflex right in the right position. So that's why, in my opinion, you can see a difference in terms of training each lift. You don't necessarily need to train the deadlift at as high of a frequency in the competition movement as you do in the squat or possibly the bench press. So overall, guys, remember, I'm as big of a fan of keeping it simple as anybody, and you can see my training style's always been like that. But my point is to just not think that any degree of variation is somehow going to be less optimal across the board for everybody. Especially if it is basically the same lift, but you're just adding a small amount of variation by adjusting the style which you're performing it. So that's it, guys. Make sure to like the video, support the channel, subscribe if you haven't already, and thanks for watching, guys. Peace!
Shooting star, Biggie died, they shot a star. Who you know in West LA? Bring that ruckus to MA. Jeez.
Johnny, you realize nobody commenting really gives a fuck about you. Let's get out of this small apartment.